are actually internal, right? So when we talk about internal barriers, we are talking about thought, word, and action. It's all about how our supercomputer, which we use above our necks, has been programmed, and what can we do to change it. So our ability to modify, transform our thought, words, and action is the first major barrier that needs to be broken. So today's session that we're going to be having is a very small little module. Breaking the barriers, of course, covers all kinds of barriers that we might face, including the societal ones, and how and what tools we can use to sort of work with them. But today I'm going to limit ourselves to the internal barriers only, and how transformational vocabulary, of course, is a part or one of the tools that we can use to break the barriers of the mind. So, I started by telling you that I'm out of my comfort zone today because I don't see you all, which is what I'm used to. I'm used to having live audiences and interacting and discussing with them. But we are still going to be talking about not only my comfort zone, but your comfort zone as well, and understand this concept of what happens to us when we are out of a comfort zone, right? So there's a small demo that I want to, suggest to you, which I want you to follow. The exercise that I will unfold is something I need you to follow me. And I wonder it'd be better for me to be on the big screen and remove this thing so that they can see and follow more clearly. Then we can come back to the slide and slide sharing. Yeah, okay. So I want all of you right now to bring your hands together like this first, facing each other, fingers apart. And if you've seen the action and if it's visible to you, then bring the hand together like this, clasp it together, and choose to note which thumb is on top, the right one or the left one. So if you followed step 1, now we'll move to step 2, which is to disengage our hands like this again. And now one more time, bring them together. Okay? This time, again, notice which thumb came on top. And one thing that most of you would have noticed or can now reconfirm to yourself, that it's probably the same thumb that came on top. The ones who got the left the first time got the left the second time as well. The ones who got the right one then got the right one as well. And this is something I don't think I can really confirm it with you guys, but in all the workshops that I've ever seen, it always works like this. Everybody gets the same thumb on top both times, all right? So now to come to the real purpose of this exercise, I want you to disengage your hand again. Now disengage like this, bring them together. Don't let the fingers cross each other. And now reverse the arrangement of the fingers. If your fingers went like this time, do it in the reverse direction. Reverse thumb direction, reverse finger direction. And the question I want you, Swasti, if you're also doing it, you or Riddhi can answer this question. Is this position now, the new position that I'm demonstrating to you, comfortable or uncomfortable? So one of you can answer this question, either Swasti or Riddhi. Is this new position that I'm demonstrating now, where you reversed your finger arrangement and you reversed your thumb arrangement, is the new position comfortable or uncomfortable?
Actually, I don't feel the difference. It's comfortable for me.
Okay. Then Swasti, are you doing too?
Yes, sir. It's comfortable for me as well.
You're not finding any difference? Go back and recheck whether you have actually reversed your entire finger position. It was like this. Then each finger should have gone to the other one, including the thumb. If that full reversal has taken place, then certainly there would be a different reaction. So would you recheck whether your positions are now locked in a totally different arrangement of fingers and thumb? I'm waiting for your response.
Sir, I think this one is uncomfortable than the previous one.
Absolutely. It is uncomfortable. And what I've found is, it basically, if the rearrangement has not been done fully, then it obviously will be as comfortable. But if you actually reversed it, then it will be uncomfortable. I mean, if there are 100 people or 500 people in the audience, almost 99.99 report the discomfort. So what is this that what we are demonstrating right now? We are physically looking at what happened the first time, and what happened the first time is that there is what we call a habitual response, something that any action that we do again and again then automatically forms what we call a comfort zone. I'm showing you the comfort zone in a physical form right now. So you bring it together, and this is the natural position for me, for example, my natural position where my right thumb comes on top and my fingers interlock like this. So that's why when I do not give any contrary instructions to my mind, the same position goes again, and the same thing will continue repeating itself because that's my habitual position. There is a neural passage in my brain which is followed. And when I do things which naturally have been done by me 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times from my childhood, then that becomes my comfort area, right? The moment somebody gives me instruction to reverse the arrangement which I have been following or which my brain and the neural passage is used to, there is immediate resistance and a cry from the brain which tells my senses that I am no longer comfortable because the position that I'm now adopting is different, right? So when it is less comfortable, what is it that we want to do? I'll answer the question right now. Obviously, what we want to do is to go back to the original position, because what we all want is seek is comfort, right? Something that we can sustain or okay with. So then, therefore, in life, in real life too, the same pattern follows, which is that our habits, things that we've been doing, usually what we have, skills that we have developed and so on and so forth, as long as we are repeating those things, there is a sense of comfort because those skills are there, those habits are there. And as long as we are just repeating that habitual response, we have no issue. But the moment we are asked to change that, then there is a sense of discomfort. And then the big question comes, and this exercise is to demonstrate that big question. When I am uncomfortable, what is the next step? Should I go back to my original position, which is my comfort zone, and say, all right, this is where I'm comfortable and this is where I intend to be? Or take the risk and understand one new factor, which is that if I stay in this uncomfortable position or relatively uncomfortable position for exactly sometimes 30 seconds to a minute of time in this physical exercise, I will become as comfortable as I was in the original position. So all my mind requires is that what I'm habituated to can change, provided I have the patience and the courage to remain out of my comfort zone for a period of time. So in real life, of course, it's not 1 minute or 2 minutes and the brain adapts. The brain might take 20 minutes, 1 day, 2 days, a month, whatever it might be. But the basic learning is that I don't need to be worried about going out of my comfort zone, because today I may not be comfortable outside. Tomorrow, if I hang in there, my ability and comfort level will restore itself fully 100%, and I'll be able to deal with all situations, even outside my comfort zone. So therefore, what kind of comfort zone situations that do we have? We all have skills in our career. There are things that we enjoy doing, music that we like to listen to. There are various things that we do which become habitual to us, and then we say, this is what we like to do, this is what we do not like to do. So coming back to